So my name is Pierre, and I portray the character of Mufasa. And it was a deeply joyful and exciting experience to be gifted the opportunity to contribute in a small way to the legacy of this beloved and cherished and celebrated character. And I'm hopeful that I served this character and served the film and served these wonderful artists that I had the opportunity to collaborate with.
The secret to playing this young legend is honestly just having a good time.
I'm Tiffany Boone, and I play Sarabi, and Sarabi is a young lion who's looking for her pride and stumbles upon a new community. And she's challenged to be open to receiving help and being a part of it. And I don't know if I cracked the secret, but what I did to try to play Sarabi is to have fun and to be vulnerable and sassy and give a little bit of
Yes, so I drew and have always drawn and continue to draw enormous amounts of inspiration from the beautiful artistry of James L. Jones. He is one of my greatest inspirations. He is one of my heroes. And for me, he is the top of the mountain. Way before I even became professional in this space, I studied him. I learned from him and was greatly inspired by him. And so far as in the context of Mufasa, James L. Jones' original and beautiful and unmatched portrayal, that was my guiding light, and really gave me direction and intention when embarking on this journey.
Yeah, I think the Band of Misfits includes our characters, Sarabi, Taka, Mufasa, Zazu, who is my right-hand man, and Rafiki, who becomes our kind of leader, although we're all like, what are you talking about, man? and he leads us to Malele. I know that Sarabi's character doesn't necessarily believe that Malele is a real place, but I think all of them are looking for a home. And Mufasa really believes in it, and Rafiki believes in it, and there are fearless leaders, or sometimes fearful leaders, and we follow them to Pride Rock.
I play Pumbaa. He's a warthog. What is he like? He's kind of a naive, enthusiastic, not the smartest creature on the plains by any means, but a very friendly one. And the secret to bringing him to life, I think, is really, just leaning into my childlike wonderment and enthusiasm, like a puppy dog. There's a puppy dog energy to Pumbaa.
Mm-hmm. I'm Billy Eichner. I play Timon. Timon is a meerkat. His best friend is Pumbaa. Timon is small in stature, but with a very big personality. And I think he's driven by a desperate need to be the center of attention, which he never is. And I think that's really the driving force behind him. Thirst, as the kids would say, I think.
They fit into the story because the way the movie is framed, it sort of is told in flashbacks, and the one storyline takes place after the events of the first Lion King movie, and we are telling the story of Mufasa, which takes place before the original Lion King movie.
Barry Jenkins is an incredible filmmaker, obviously, so to get to work with him was a huge honor. Seth and I get to record together, which is pretty unusual for these types of films, and Barry really encouraged us to improvise a lot and ad-lib a lot, which we did a ton, and a surprising amount of it makes it into the movie. I think almost everything, not everything, but almost everything we say was unscripted and something that happened in the recording booth.
I mean, I think people always relate to like outcasts and underdogs, when they are very much outcasts and just by nature of where they fall on the food chain of the savannah, I think it makes them underdogs as well. They are prey for the most part, and vegetarians. And so, and I really think the fact that me and Billy are able to record together and really bring our own humor to it and our dynamic, and really able to play off of each other and are kind of given free license to try to actually make it as funny as we can, and we are both people without children, and so we are trying to make something that we really like as well. And I think that the combination of all those things seem to work well in the context of these movies.
Well, when you meet Timon and Pumbaa, the movie is framed with the idea that Kiara, Nala and Simba's daughter, obviously never met Mufasa, her grandfather, because he dies in the first movie. So she doesn't know how he became such a great hero and where he found his courage. And so Timon and Pumbaa, although really Rafiki, tell Kiara the story of how her grandfather became this hero. And when we meet him, he did have humble beginnings. He wasn't born into the position that we think of him being, and at the same time, neither was Scar, who we realize Scar's original name was Taka, right? And we see how their relationship developed as brothers of a sort, and how Scar's, has this complex story which leads him to being the quote-unquote villain, and Mufasa has a complex story and a relationship with Scar which leads him to be the hero that we know him to be. But you follow all of that in what I think is pretty complex for a family film.
I first encountered The Lion King through babysitting my nephews. I was living with my sister, who was a single mom, and you're often rooting around for which VHS tape is going to help me watch these kids the best, which is going to hold their attention. And The Lion King was the one we just watched over and over again. And at first I thought they were watching the movie, and then I realized that I was watching it with them. And the more we watched it, the more I just realized how special it was. They were getting to process these very complex emotions, but in a very safe way.
Honestly, before I even saw The Lion King in theaters when I was 14 years old, I saw the trailer. The trailer is one of the all-time great Disney flexes in the history of marketing. They had just come off the trifecta of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin. And I must have been seeing another movie, and the trailer was just the first 4 minutes of the movie. It was that immortal sunrise and Lebo M's voice and this world we'd never seen before of these animals and this sort of royal ceremony that was happening in Africa. And we just knew we were in uncharted territory, and then just said, boom, The Lion King. And everyone who saw it was like, well, I'm going to that. Yeah. And so they really kind of it's remarkable what uncharted territory it was at the time, even for Disney, and how it's resonated throughout the world. It's forget what you think you know about Mufasa. When you saw, we all think of Mufasa as just the perfect dad, voiced by the brilliant James Earl Jones. And what's amazing about this story is he was not always perfect. And Scar, his brother, was not always his enemy. And so we get the story of how these two brothers came to be where they are, and also what it takes to become a leader, and his story, the story of his ascension. Mufasa is uprooted from his home and essentially adopted by Taka. There's a moment where Taka basically says to him, "I always wanted a brother," and when I read that line of dialogue in the screenplay, I said, "That's my song title." And for inspiration, I didn't have to look any farther than my own home. I have two boys who are 6 and 10 years old, who drive each other crazy, but would do anything for each other. And that spirit is what animates that song.
The setting of Mufasa the Lion King comes out of this journey that Mufasa goes on. He's sort of like washed away from everything he knows, and we saw it as a great opportunity to chart this really wonderful path across the continent of Africa. And so what we wanted to do was cover and convey all these different landscapes, all these different cultures that Mufasa, Taka, Rafiki, Sarabi, and Zazu get to journey through. And to us, it was a really wonderful way of expanding the visual footprint, the visual landscape of The Lion King. Yeah, the most important thing to me in casting was just the ability of the actors to convey emotions with their voices. This movie began purely as a radio play, And it's really about getting such a rich and just clear emotion from the actors that then the storyboard artists, the animators, me, the cinematographer, that we're all then trying to live up to. And so the quality of the vocal performance was the most important thing. The surprise was that everybody can sing, because
I was very grateful for that.
Because I wasn't casting for singers, I was casting for, when you deliver this line, am I gonna feel it? Is an audience gonna feel it? And then the singing part was just like this blessing on the cake, this icing on the cake. I don't know, were you expecting that?
I was just praying that they could sing because I knew I had to make them sing. But I mean, just from Aaron to Kelvin, who I knew was a great singer because I enjoyed his work in Cyrano, to our Broadway ringers, Anika Noni Rose and Keith David, who are both Broadway legends in their own right, to a person. They were all wonderful. I think the first song I wrote for it was I Always Wanted a Brother. Again, that line of dialogue inspired so much. I knew that I wanted to help the storytelling by the end of the song, they're going to be grown and they're going to be the lines that we spend the rest of the movie with. And even that is a time-honored tradition, Lion King. He sings Hakuna Matata, he walks behind a waterfall and suddenly he's a grown lion. So that was enormous fun to find, and also a way to find the differences between Mufasa and Taka and how they approach leadership and their places within this family that Mufasa has been adopted into. And then, I think the other fun element of it is I got demo vocalists. I call my friends on Broadway. So I had my friends Anissa and Daniel Yearwood, great singers, sing the demos so I could make sure they worked. In my demo, Chris Jackson and Josh Henry, who are both Broadway legends, played the grown Mufasa and Taka, and just really tried to make as specific a vision of it as possible so Barry could hear really close to what we needed to do. And then when we went to the singers, we were racing puberty with our young Mufasa and young Taka. Their voices were deepening by the second, so we knew we had to record them before it was too high for them to sing. And then at the very end of it, we got Kelvin and Aaron for that last bit of the tune, which was a joy.